I hope you're having fun playing Rememento, but if you're worried about where characters might fall in a tier list and how good or bad they might be, and whether you should re-roll for one or two or even 3 different ones, I'm here to help. Firstly, I want to say that I firmly believe any character in this game can be played as long as you play them well, as long as you build them well, and as long as you make a team that makes sense for them. You can definitely scale PvP with them. You can definitely finish out PvE with them. Any character. Some might have an easier time than others, but I believe all content is clearable with it. With that being said, this tier list is based off of the Korean PvP list currently, my own personal experience, and a few other resources that I've seen across the last few months. So, let's get started into it. So, we're going to be starting with Shu-Tin. Shu-Tin is a really solid buffer. I feel like there are other buffers who can buff better than her, but I think she's really solid overall, and a pretty solid grounded pick if you end up with her. So I'm going to put Shu-Tin at A for that reason. The next character I'm going to talk about, and just kind of fitting that she's next, is Pharisee. I always butcher her name. She is actually the top buffer in the game currently. She is on the top of the PvP tier list for Korea, and I have seen nothing but good things about her. She is a very strong unit. She can give MP. She can give speed up. I mean, she's just overall a really solid support character to have. The next character is one that you start off with a little early, which is called Yuri. Now, Yuri, if built right, which to build her correctly, she wants speed and lots of speed. It's in her kit. It's how she performs well. And she can pack quite a punch. I've been against a few in PvP that have been a little nasty. But I do feel like she's kind of niche. And again, you have to make sure to build her super tightly on her stats to make her do tremendously well. That being said, I'm going to place her at A because I do still think overall she's pretty solid. The next unit is Ravi. Ravi has a taunt and she's a shielder and she's super freaking cute. However, currently in the meta, from what I've seen between Korea and what I've seen here global and what I've experienced myself, shields aren't super in the meta. That doesn't mean you can't have a shielder. It doesn't mean shielders can't be good. But shielders aren't super in the meta. And there's a few reasons for this. For example, there's a support we're going to talk about in a moment that gives you shields and gives you heals and is basically like a sub-sustain. So with that being said, I'm going to put Ravi at B, not because she's not good, not because you can't use her, but because she doesn't really have a place in the current meta, at least how I feel, over our current sustains. Okay, the next unit, and I know a lot of you love this unit, and you guess what? I love this unit too, is Asanya. Asanya is an incredible unit. She has the ability to take extra turns. She has a chance to get extra turns. And she's just, her damage can be absolutely insane, and she is a very fun character to play. That being said, I don't feel like she is as strong as some of the other DPSs off base. Let me be clear about that. Again, this has nothing to do with your builds or anything. So if you have specialized builds for these characters, by the way, please share them with me. I would love to see them. And if I get those characters, I'd love to try them out. And we could just have a whole good fun discussion about it. But anyway, so that being said, I'm going to put her at A because I feel like she is still a very strong unit. I just don't feel like she's as strong as some of the other units that we have here. And the next one is going to be Chloe. Chloe is one of the 5-star healers. She heals based off of her max HP, and she can also dispel buffs or debuffs. And she's insanely freaking cute. I adore her. I do wish that her kit gave just a little bit more, but I feel like too much and she'd be too strong. So for that being said, I think she's overall a pretty solid support with the amount of utility that she gives. So I'm going to put her at S. And the next unit is going to be Rampart. Rampart is a really good 4-star tank, and he offers a freeze, which I believe no other character... Well, the MC freezes. Never mind. The MC can freeze. But overall, he's a little annoying to deal with if built correctly. But again, shields are not really in meta right now, so there's not really a super good place for him. And I do feel like Ravi would be the better choice between the two shielders. So with that being said, I'm going to put him at C for that reason. All right, the next unit is Sasha. Now, Sasha excels at single target, which, however, there are not a lot of single target bosses, especially into the end game. A lot of them will summon mobs, etc., etc. She does a lot of damage when there's only one target. That being said, her damage output can be really good. Again, primarily relying on builds, but because of the way the meta is with the bosses and the summoning of the mobs, she's really only really good against the dragon boss, and I wouldn't even say she's the best against the dragon boss by far. So I would also put her at C. I'd almost put her at D, but I feel like she has potential, so I'd put her at C. Yeah. The next unit is the healer. We start off with Sari. Sari is great. She's a good, reliable healer. I think she can get you into the end game for sure, as long as you build her. The only problem is that there's a lot of story bosses that are fire, encounter Sari, and can break her and can make the combat awful. Now, yes, I know everyone's a different element. They can get countered, and that can be a whole problem. Like later on, you're going to face a boss that's grass, and that counters Chloe, and, you know, it's a whole slew of issues. But the thing is that the majority that you face in the story are fire, except for, like, when you get to the big bosses, only the dragon's fire. With that being said, I do feel Chloe is definitely a better healer than her. So for that reason, I'm going to put her at A. I almost want to put her at B, but I don't feel right putting her at B. So we're going to put her at A because I do think she's still really solid. I just think that if there weren't so many fire bosses, you would get a lot more use out of her early. But of course, the reason they did that is because the MC is water, and they're like, use the MC. Which, by the way, just a little tidbit, MC is not garbage. Okay, I don't know if you guys have been ignoring MC because typically, like gacha games, the MC is garbage. I understand. Trust me, I get it. But MC is not garbage. MC can be built very well. I wouldn't put them at the top tier list. I don't have a picture for them, but like, let's just say for argument's sake, I did. I put MC at least at A, because they are pretty solid as long as you build them out. All right. So the next unit is Theodore. Theodore has a taunt, gift shield, can be pretty solid, but again, still has the issues with the shielder, thing. And I do feel like Rampart is the better 4-star shielder. That is my personal opinion. Of course, if you disagree with me, that is perfectly fine. But for that reason, I'm putting Theodore at D. Also because he has a really weird angle on his ult cutscene. That's not his fault, but I'm just adding that in there. The next unit is Pluto. Pluto is a 4-star support, and she is freaking amazing. I have her on my Korean account. I play the crap out of her with her. She's amazing. She's actually amazing. I'm putting her at S tier. She's a very solid unit to have. And you, like, if you have her and you build her well, amazing. I love her. Okay. So the next unit is Priscilla. I told you we would get you the support. That was kind of like a sub-sustain, basically. That's the utility she offers. She has an ability that can heal teammates. She has an ability that can shield teammates. She has an ability that will basically block your break bar, from taking from being broken, and things like that. So she's very utility. She's not like damage boosting support like you think of a typical support. So she's more like a sub-sustain. I love her. I have her on my team. I got her. I do not have another support other than Pluto. But because she's more sustainy than she is supporty, sometimes it's really good. Like, especially when you're type countered, and that can come into an issue. I am the girl that got mostly a water team on global. Anyway. So, that being said, because she is sustainy more than she is supporty, and yes, you can argue that, but like when I think sustain, I think shields, I think healing. When I think support, I think buffing. You know what I mean? So because of that, I'm going to be putting Priscilla at S because she has good potential as a sub-sustain. Now, if you were saying if I judge her on support alone, I'd put her probably at A or B because she just does not support as well as the others because she doesn't offer those buffs. But in general, as a unit, I'd put her an S because she does give your team a little extra survivability, which is always nice, especially considering for some reason in PvP and global, and I can't for the life of me figure out why, people are being obsessed with running double sustain. Don't do that, guys. That can be so easily beaten. Instead, you can run 2 buffers or a buffer and a debuffer and a really good geared main DPS. You can get to the top of the leaderboard. Promise you. That's what's going on in Korea's PvP currently. Last I checked, right before global launch. Okay. So the next support is Diana. Now this is your classic support. She does give like cooldowns. She gives a little bit of buffs. She's just nice overall, and plus she's absolutely adorable to look at. But obviously that's not why we're here. We're not basing off looks. So that being said, I would put her, I'd still put her, I feel like we need another category between S and SS because she's not like S, I feel, but she's not like double S. Like she's higher. Like, I guess we'll just put her ahead of Pluto. This is not supposed to be in a particular order, but for like argument's sake, we're going to say these 3 supports are in order and that's it. Okay. The next one is Hajin. Hajin, I feel like, is a little hidden gem, and this might come back to bite me, but you know what? I'm going to talk about it because I'm a content creator and I want to share knowledge. So, Hajin is very unique in the way that Marvel is really unique to Etheria, in my opinion. He can basically turn manipulate. He can steal cooldowns from the enemy. He can be very nasty and a very secret hidden debuffer weapon that I think is very much overlooked right now. I haven't built mine, but I'm telling you, this guy is a secret bomb, especially in PvP. Okay, if you build him right, he can be nasty. So with that being said, with his little secret bomb, I'm putting him at S because he's actually kind of nasty. All right, and the next unit is Artness. Now, I know, a lot of you love Artness. Trust me, I love Artness. A lot of you do, and I've heard some of you come in my chat talking about Artness. Some people who have played on the Korea server have said that they built Artness and played her on PvE, just with a lot of effective hit rate, something. And a lot of people mistook her for a DPS. She's a debuffer. Can you build her as a DPS? Sure, you can build anyone in this game as a DPS. But with that being said, her role is supposed to be a debuffer and where she applies the dots and things like that. So with that being said, I don't feel like she's as strong of a debuffer as some of the others like Hajin, or one of the ones we're going to get to a little later. So for that premise of being a debuffer, not a DPS, guys, I'm going to put her at C tier because I feel like she can apply debuff, she can apply dot, she can do great, but not as good as some of the others. And I feel like she's actually a little bit weaker than the others. I also want to point out something to you guys as I'm going through this. out of all the units we've listed so far, as far as 5 stars that we've come across, we have Ferranti and Artness. They are both like base characters. They were on the standard banner for Korea when the game first came out, with Asanya being the first limited banner. The reason I tell you this is because now you can look at the tier list and say, oh, okay, so both of these 2 5-star characters have been out since like ground 0, and while one of them, yes, is not doing that well, the other one is still doing great. So I want you guys to keep that in mind in terms of longevity of like the game as a whole, that there are units that were on the standard when the game launched that are doing well. And I'll try to point those out to you as we go. There's not very many left because there wasn't a lot, because the game doesn't have a lot of characters yet. So, but yes, just wanted to point that out to you. The next one is Enos. Enos is a really good healer. She can give you, for example, vampirism, which will cause your team to do lifesteal, which is really, really nice. I think, well, let me say this first. She heals based off of her attack. So it makes her a very strong, very damage-heavy healer, which can be really great in a lot of different situations. But I do feel like, if you're asking me in general, Chloe would be the more consistent one with the amount of utility, with the amount of utility that she gets throughout her kit, whereas Enos is mostly relegated, I believe, to her 3rd and 2nd ability, off the top of my head. That being said, I do think that Enos is still a really good healer. I'm not putting her a B, don't worry. It's a really good healer, but I do feel like for her to excel and be better than Chloe, you have to get her on her niche teams where she's going to do fantastic. Like, for example, if you put her on Chesha's team, I think they would perform very, very, very well together and do very, very well together. So with that being said, I also want to say that she would probably work well because of how her kit is with a very, very aggressive team. Not super long, drawn-out fights. Now, she can heal through that. She can be fine. All the good things. And I'm not saying that she can't. She absolutely can. But the way her playstyle and her kit is kind of points more towards a aggressive. So, like, if you have a super aggressive team, you have a wombo combo, we're going to blow shit up team, Enos is probably going to be better for you than Chloe, because Chloe is really good at long sustain. And again, they can both do that. But their kits as a whole, in a general overview, Chloe long sustain, a little bit more passive, a little bit let me keep you alive while you do your thing. Whereas Enos is more like, I'm here to punch with you. I will heal and punch with you. And we will do this thing together and we will blow them up together. Does that make sense? So with that being said, I'm still going to put Enos at S. I think she's an amazing healer. I think she's really solid. I think her and Chloe are really freaking close. I think they're just 2 different play styles, and 2 different styles of healer that you'd have on your team. But the fact that we have both, I think, is really, really good and kind of brings in different options and diversity. So that's what I'm going to say. I know she's behind Chloe, but I mean, really, it doesn't really matter. I'll stick her up here. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, as far as order, like, I can put her here. It doesn't matter. They are interchangeable. I think they're on the same level. Okay. Next we have Jeremiah. Jeremiah goes off effect hit accuracy, by the way, if you're looking to build them. Really good. Can apply burn, which is why you want the effect hit accuracy. Her Rememento is specifically about applying that, which is the only DPS Rememento that has that stat. I almost called it a Lycone, sorry. So pretty solid. I think you could build them out to be a DPS, but you have to make sure you get the stats really good. I almost feel like, though, that she is a DPSing debuffer more than a main DPS, but I think you could swing her that way if you really wanted to. But with that being said, again, it's a situation like Artness where we're focusing on, okay, what is her actual role? Not what she can be. What is she? Like Artness and Priscilla, right? So with that being said, as far as main DPS, I feel like Jeremiah just falls a little short in a lot of situations. So for that reason, I'm putting her at C with these guys. Again, I do think she can be built. I think you could climb the leaderboard with her if you wanted, as long as you build her correctly. Yeah, so. All right, next we have Xeon. Xeon is kind of like his own self-sustaining little machine, okay? He can kind of duel. If you played a Theory of Restart, kind of think in the realm of Messiah, and you kind of have Messiah's long-lost, twice-removed cousin Xeon, okay? So they're not exactly one-to-one, but there are some similarities. And that's not to say that Xeon is super OP. Xeon is another standard character that came out at Ground Zero, by the way. But I do still think that he's pretty solid overall because he does get that self-sustain, to himself, obviously, no one else. And he can do a good bit of damage. However, I still don't think he's as good as some of the other DPSs. With that being said, I'm going to put him at S because he does have the little self-sustain, which kind of fits in with Global's current meta right now with all the sustain runners. I'm so confused as to why that's a thing, but you guys do you and have fun with it. just saying. Okay. I'm double checking Lucas's stuff real quick because it's been a minute since I looked at his stuff. I do have the game in the background just to fact check myself. Okay. Alright, so you have Lucas. You can increase, make the enemy take increased damage, and etc, etc. And he is a main DPS for 4-star DPS. So I do think he's another one of those little like niche units that you could definitely probably pull some nasty stuff off with the right combination. But overall, like in general, just taking Lucas himself without thinking about any of the builds, I don't think he's as strong as in the other tiers, and I would not put him on the same tier as Asanya because I think Asanya is much better. And actually, I'm gonna put Lucas down on B tier just like as he stands, and I'm gonna actually thinking about it, I'm gonna actually move Asanya up to S tier. Like the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't really think she fits at A tier, so I'm moving her up to S tier. So if you stop the video at the part where I had her at A tier and then you wrote me an angry comment, just know I proverbially heard you, and she is now at S tier, and I also adore her as a character too. The next character is Libertas. Libertas is hands down the best debuffer in the freaking game, man. Not exaggerating. Wish I was. She's amazing. I adore her. I love her. She's really solid for your team. The end. She outputs a lot of damage. She outputs a lot of really good debuffs. She can remove buffs from the enemy team. I love her. Okay. The next unit is Lilia. Lilia, I'm going to be putting at A tier because I feel like she doesn't output as much healing as some of the other healers, but she does have a revive, which makes her very unique and very good to run as long as you build her right and have her with a really good solid team. But for all the reasons of the healing output and things like that, I'm putting her at A. But again, I do think you can build her and be top of the tier list. I'm going to say that for everyone because I want you guys to know that. Like, this is just my opinion off of research that I've done in my experience. But please take it with a grain of salt as a very generalized, loose guideline that you do not have to follow to the letter. The next one is Monica. Monica is a unique DPS in the way that a lot of her damage scales off max HP rather than scaling off your typical attack stats. With that being said, it would make Monica a little bit of a tankier DPS versus the normal DPSs. If built correctly, she could definitely pack a punch. I have her on my Korean account. And with the right team, she can do phenomenal. So with that being said, she can also duel really well in PvP because she is going to be a little bit tankier than the others. But considering that we just had Ivy come out and I feel like it did knock Monica down a notch, I'm putting her at A for that reason. Prior, I would have put Monica at S. Next, we have Bernice. Bernice still going to the stigma of being a shielder, but does give invincibility, which is actually very annoying to deal with, but P.S. Libertas can steal the invincibility that, well, not steal, but remove the invincibility that Bernice puts on her team. Just putting it out there. Okay, anyway. But again, with the whole shielder meta not being great and everything like that, I think Bernice is a great tank. I think she's solid, but yeah, not really the time for tanks. So I'm putting her at B. The next unit is Beatrice. Beatrice is by far one of the best DPSs in the game currently, other than Ivy, who we'll get to in a moment. Really solid. When she gets debuffed, she actually gets skill damage up. She can nuke a team. She has AoE abilities out the butt. Really, really, really solid unit. I love her. I got to play her for the first time on Global, but I've seen a lot of other people play her, and she is constantly on the top leaderboards in PvP. She's not the only one. Chisha has been there. I've seen Asanya there. I've seen Monica there. So don't think she's the only one, but she is one of the main ones that I do see concurrently. All right. The next one, speaking of, is Chisha. Chisha, I think, as one of those unique playstyles that needs a unique team to fit her unique playstyle. I do think you could stick her on any team, but I think there are certain teams, like, for example, pairing her with Enos, for example, would be really, really good as long as you build her correctly. That being said, I'm going to place her at S because I do feel like she has high potential to do well. Part of me wants to place her at A, but I feel like as long as you do build around her, you'll do fine. You'll do absolutely fine. And you don't even have to have Enos. You can build around her with the 4-star units as well. And we can talk about that later. But yeah, I think she can still be S. It's just she's kind of in a middle ground between A and S, depending on what you do as a player. So that being said, I'm putting her at S just because I do adore her. Then we have Ivy. Ivy has the I will not die function in her kit. It's rather annoying to deal with in PvP, I'm going to be honest, and she does give herself a little healing. That being said, overall, I think she's a really good unit, and she kind of packs a punch, so I'm going to put her at SS. Then you have Kana. Kana does a lot of, like, maximum health stuff and a little bit of debuffing. I don't think she's as good of a debuffer, as some of the others here, so I'm going to put Kana at B, though I do feel like she could be higher. Rosen is a really good debuffer for a 4-star. I hate to say it that way, but yeah. I do think he's better than Kana, so for that reason, I'm gonna put him at A. So, what do you guys think? Do you agree with the tier list? Do you not agree with the tier list? Do you have your own tier list? Because I would love to talk about it and discuss. If you guys like this video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone!